"I want a child from you," declared the determined black woman, standing boldly before the trembling farmer who could barely meet her eyes. The townspeople had already written his obituary, another weak soul destined to lose his family's land to stronger men, too timid to defend what little he possessed. They whispered he'd die forgotten, swallowed by the unforgiving frontier that devoured the meek. But the schoolteacher saw something others missed in his gentle hands and patient ways. Her own survival depended on finding a man brave enough to defy a town's hatred, yet she'd chosen the one person everyone considered a coward. Neither knew that hidden beneath their feet lay secrets powerful enough to destroy those who tormented them or elevate them beyond imagination. Would two outcasts discover the strength to claim their destiny, or would fear condemn them both to the shadows forever? Before we continue, comment where you are tuning in from. Perhaps we will publish a story there. The autumn wind cut through Isaac Fisher's worn coat as he stumbled away from the town square. Laughter followed him down the dusty street. His cheeks burned with shame. Thomas Brennan's voice still echoed in his ears. The Irish rancher had called his farming methods backward, primitive. The crowd had roared their approval when Brennan suggested Isaac should stick to growing weeds. Isaac pushed through the door of his modest farmhouse. The silence wrapped around him like a familiar blanket. 3 years since his father's death. 3 years of managing the homestead alone. 3 years of the town treating him like a ghost. He moved to the kitchen window. His hands shook as he pumped water into a basin. The face in the cracked mirror above the sink showed a man of 28 who looked defeated. Pale skin, thinning brown hair, eyes that couldn't hold a gaze. The town of Cedar Ridge had made its judgment. Isaac Fisher was weak. Elias Granger proved it every month. The banker arrived with new reasons why Isaac should sell his land. The soil was poor, the location inconvenient, the debt mounting. Granger's cold eyes suggested Isaac lacked the strength to be a real farmer. Isaac dried his hands on a threadbare towel. His stomach churned remembering today's humiliation. Brennan had challenged his crop rotation methods in front of half the town. Isaac had opened his mouth to explain. The words died in his throat. He'd stammered once, twice, then walked away in silence. The pattern never changed. Isaac backed down. Others moved forward. Marianne Tate knocked on his door at sunset. The widow lived on the neighboring plot. Her weathered face showed concern. "You can't let them push you around forever." Isaac stared at his boots. "Don't know what else to do. Your father left you more than this farm. Important papers. Documents he kept hidden." She paused. "Maybe it's time you looked through his things properly." Isaac nodded without conviction. His father had been a quiet man, too. What secrets could a simple German immigrant farmer possibly have? Marianne left him with more questions than answers. The next morning brought the weekly trip to Miller's grain depot. Isaac loaded his modest wheat harvest onto his wagon. The yield was smaller than last year. Granger would notice. Everyone would notice. He guided his horse through the town's main street. Children pointed and whispered. Women pulled their skirts aside. Men looked through him as if he were made of air. The grain depot buzzed with activity. Farmers compared their harvests. Isaac unloaded his wheat in silence. The conversation stopped when he approached. Then he saw her. Zuri Shaw stood near the depot entrance. The woman had arrived in Cedar Ridge 6 months ago from Virginia. She taught the colored children in a small schoolhouse on the town's edge. Her presence commanded attention in ways Isaac's never could. She was tall, confident. Her dark skin glowed with health. Her eyes held intelligence that made others uncomfortable. The townspeople tolerated her because they needed someone to educate the colored children. But tolerance wasn't acceptance. Isaac had watched her from a distance. She moved through the world with purpose. She spoke clearly. She never backed down from confrontation. Everything Isaac was not. Zuri approached him directly. The grain depot fell silent. "Mr. Fisher." Isaac's mouth went dry. "Ma'am, I need to speak with you, privately." The watching crowd leaned closer. Isaac felt their eyes boring into him. His palms sweated, his throat closed. I don't think that's proper. What I have to say is important. Isaac glanced around. Thomas Brennan stood near the wheat scales. His expression promised future mockery. Elias Granger observed from the depot office. His thin smile suggested new ammunition. Outside, then, Isaac whispered. They walked to the edge of the depot yard. Zuri turned to face him. Her eyes held determination that made Isaac want to disappear. I want a child from you. The words hit Isaac like physical blows. His vision blurred, his knees wobbled. Around them the world continued moving, but everything felt frozen. I don't understand. You understand perfectly. Zuri's voice remained steady. I've watched you. You're gentle with your animals, patient with your crops. You don't drink or fight or chase women. You're exactly what I need. Isaac's mouth moved without sound. His face burned hotter than summer sun. The school board meets next month. They're questioning my position. Single women without family connections don't last long in teaching positions. I need to secure my future. But I'm not. We couldn't. People already talk about both of us. We're both outsiders, both alone, both struggling. Isaac shook his head frantically. This is impossible. Think about it. Zuri walked away. Isaac stood frozen in the depot yard. The watching crowd buzzed with speculation. Brennan's laughter cut through the autumn air. Granger's calculating stare followed Isaac's every movement. Isaac climbed onto his wagon. His hands trembled on the reins. The ride home passed in a blur of racing thoughts and burning shame. But underneath the fear, something else stirred. Someone had noticed him. Someone had seen qualities in him worth wanting. Someone believed he might be more than the town's weakest link. That night, Isaac sat in his father's old chair. Zuri's words echoed in his memory, her confident voice, her direct gaze, her shocking proposal. The house creaked around him. Shadows danced on the walls. Outside, the wind picked up strength. Isaac Fisher had spent 3 years accepting everyone's judgment of his worth. But what if they were wrong? What if he was wrong? What if there was more to discover about himself than anyone suspected? Isaac couldn't sleep. Zuri's words circled his mind like vultures. He paced the small farmhouse until dawn broke over the Kansas plains. The morning brought no clarity, only restless energy that demanded action. He walked to his father's bedroom. The space had remained untouched since the funeral. Dust covered the simple furniture. Moths had eaten holes in the curtains. Isaac opened the wooden trunk at the foot of the bed. His father's clothes lay folded beneath layers of lavender. Beneath the clothes, he found a leather portfolio tied with string. His fingers fumbled with the knots. The portfolio opened to reveal documents written in careful script, legal papers, property deeds, maps marked with precise measurements. Isaac's breath caught in his throat. The first document showed ownership of his current 160-acre farm. Standard homestead papers. Nothing surprising. The second document changed everything. 500 acres of prime railroad land, purchased in 1863 under Isaac Fisher's name. Current value estimated at $15,000. Water rights included. Mineral rights reserved. Isaac dropped the papers. His hands shook violently. He was rich, not just comfortable. Wealthy beyond anything Cedar Ridge had ever seen. The land stretched along the railroad corridor where cattle drives converged, where merchants established trading posts, where fortunes were built. A letter in his father's handwriting lay beneath the deeds. My son, I bought this land when you were 15, too young to understand its value, too innocent to protect yourself from those who would use you. I kept this secret to let you grow into your own strength. The wealth is yours when you are ready to claim it. Trust no one completely. Protect yourself first. Your loving father, Heinrich Fisher. Isaac sank into his father's chair. The room spun around him. Everything he believed about himself crumbled like old paper. He wasn't the town's weakest farmer. He was its most valuable landowner. The revelation struck him like lightning. Every insult from Thomas Brennan, every dismissive comment from Elias Granger, every pitying look from the townspeople. They were all wrong. His father had protected him from fortune hunters, from manipulators, from people who would see him as a prize to be won rather than a person to be known, like Zuri might now. The thought twisted in his stomach. Had she somehow learned about the land? Was her proposal calculated rather than genuine? Isaac stood up. His legs felt stronger, his spine straighter. The wealth hadn't just changed his circumstances. It had changed his perspective. He looked in his father's mirror. The same pale face stared back. But something in his eyes had shifted. Purpose replaced defeat. Isaac spent the morning walking his known property with new eyes. The modest farm was just the beginning. His real holdings stretched beyond the horizon. Prime grazing land, rich soil, strategic water access. He was not a victim waiting for stronger men to claim what was his. He was a landowner who had been hiding his true strength. By afternoon, Isaac had made his decision. He hitched his wagon and rode to town. But not to cower this time, to test his new reality. His first stop was the general store. Isaac walked inside with measured steps. The owner looked up with barely concealed contempt. "Need supplies," Isaac said clearly. "Credit's getting thin, Fisher." Isaac placed a $20 gold piece on the counter. The owner's eyes widened. Gold was rare in Cedar Ridge. Men who carried it commanded respect. "That should cover what I need." Isaac purchased new clothes, sturdy boots, quality tools, items he had denied himself for years. The store owner's attitude transformed with each purchase. Word traveled fast in small towns. Isaac visited the bank next. Elias Granger looked up from his ledgers with surprise. "Fisher, hear about the loan payments? Here to open a new account." Isaac placed $500 in cash on Granger's desk. The banker's composure cracked. His calculating eyes reassessed everything he thought he knew. "Where did you come by this kind of money?" "Family assets I recently discovered." Granger's thin smile faded. Isaac opened the account without mentioning the land. Some secrets needed protection. By evening, the town buzzed with speculation. Isaac Fisher had money. Real money. The implications rippled through every conversation. Isaac returned home as the sun set. His confidence had grown with each transaction, each surprised look, each moment of newfound respect. But questions remained about Zuri. She knocked on his door after dark. Isaac opened it without the usual trembling. His posture had changed. His voice carried new strength. "I heard about your sudden prosperity." Isaac studied her face, looking for calculation, for greed, for the signs his father had warned about. "And? I want to withdraw my proposal." The answer surprised him. "Why?" "Because now people will think I'm a fortune hunter, that I somehow knew about your money." Zuri's eyes showed genuine pain. "I don't want you to question my motives." Isaac saw truth in her expression. Relief flooded through him. "What if I don't want you to withdraw it?" "You don't understand. Everything has changed." "Yes, everything has changed." Isaac stepped aside. "Come in." They sat at his kitchen table. Isaac felt different in his own house, more solid, more present. "I want to start over. Properly this time." "What do you mean?" "Courtship. Real courtship. To see if we suit each other beyond convenience." Zuri's eyes searched his face. "You're not the same man who ran away from me yesterday?" "No, I'm not." "What changed?" Isaac smiled. For the first time in years, it felt natural. "I remembered who I really am." The courtship began quietly. Isaac visited Zuri's schoolhouse each evening after lessons ended. She helped him improve his reading and writing. He shared knowledge about soil management and crop rotation. Their conversations revealed unexpected compatibility. Both valued education. Both understood solitude. Both had learned to be self-reliant in a world that offered little kindness to outsiders. Isaac's transformation continued beyond wealth. His stutter disappeared during their talks. His shoulders straightened when he explained farming techniques. Zuri watched him bloom like a plant finally receiving proper sunlight. Chief Nathaniel Green arrived on a Thursday morning. The leader of Cedar Ridge's colored community rode his horse directly to Isaac's farm. His weathered face showed protective concern. "You courting Miss Shaw?" Isaac met his gaze without flinching. "Yes, sir. She's precious to our community, like a daughter to me." "I understand." Nathaniel studied Isaac with sharp eyes. "Prove you're worthy of her." The test came in stages. Nathaniel challenged Isaac to repair a broken wagon wheel using only basic tools. Isaac's patient craftsmanship impressed him. Next came managing a stubborn bull that had escaped its pen. Isaac's gentle approach calmed the animal where force had failed. Each test revealed Isaac's quiet competence, his methodical thinking, his respect for both people and animals. Meanwhile, the town's reaction grew uglier. Elias Granger visited Isaac's farm with 3 well-dressed women, the banker's daughters and niece, all of marriageable age, all white. "Now that your circumstances have improved, you should consider appropriate matches." Isaac declined politely but firmly. Granger's expression hardened. "You're making a serious mistake, Fisher." Thomas Brennan took a more direct approach. He began appearing wherever Zuri taught or shopped. His attentions were unwelcome but persistent. He spoke of his ranch's success, his cattle herds, his need for a woman to manage his household. Zuri rejected him repeatedly. Brennan's frustration grew dangerous. The tension reached a breaking point at the monthly town meeting. Isaac attended for the first time in years. His new clothes and confident bearing drew stares. Brennan stood up when the floor opened for community business. "We need to address the inappropriate relationship developing in our town." Murmurs rippled through the gathered crowd. Isaac felt every eye turned toward him. "Some folks think money gives them the right to upset the natural order, to pursue women above their station." Isaac's jaw tightened, but he remained seated. "I challenge any man who thinks he can court Miss Shaw to prove his worthiness through honest competition." The room fell silent. Isaac's heart hammered against his ribs. This was his moment to retreat, to apologize, to return to invisibility. Instead, he stood up. "What kind of competition?" Gasps echoed through the meeting hall. Brennan's eyes lit with predatory satisfaction. "Farming competition. Whoever brings in the better crop yield wins the right to court the lady." Isaac felt the weight of every stare, the expectation of his failure, the assumption he would back down like always. "I accept." The crowd erupted. Brennan grinned widely. Granger looked furious. In the back of the room, Zuri watched with unreadable eyes. After the meeting, she confronted Isaac outside. "You can't let men compete for me like I'm a prize cow. That's not what this is about." "Then what?" Isaac looked directly at her. "This is about proving I belong in this community, that we both do. And if you lose, I won't lose." The confidence in his voice surprised them both. Preparation consumed the following weeks. Isaac applied advanced techniques his father had taught him in private. Crop rotation patterns most local farmers didn't understand. Soil enrichment methods that maximized yield. Zuri helped despite her initial anger. She researched agricultural innovations in her teaching materials. Together they developed strategies that combined scientific knowledge with practical experience. Their partnership deepened through shared purpose. Late evenings spent planning revealed their complementary strengths. Isaac's methodical patience balanced Zuri's analytical intelligence. Romance bloomed naturally between them, but external pressures mounted. Reverend Kane increased his complaints about Zuri's teaching position. Local women whispered about her improper behavior. Some members of the colored community questioned her choices. Chief Nathaniel defended her publicly, but privately expressed concerns. "This path won't be easy for either of you." "The right path rarely is," Zuri replied. Brennan grew increasingly desperate as the competition date approached. Reports reached Isaac of damaged fence posts, missing irrigation channels, tools that mysteriously disappeared overnight. Marianne Tate visited Isaac with disturbing news. Brennan's been asking questions about your land holdings, meeting with strangers from the territorial capital. What kind of strangers? Men in expensive suits. Government types, maybe? Isaac filed the information away. His focus remained on the competition. The morning arrived with perfect autumn weather. Half the county gathered to watch. Betting pools formed. Most money favored Brennan. Isaac surveyed his prepared plot. Every plant had been tended with scientific precision. Every row optimized for maximum growth, the result of weeks of careful planning and patient execution. Brennan's plot looked impressive, too. Bigger plants, more aggressive growth patterns. The crowd murmured approval at his obvious strength, but Isaac knew appearances could deceive. The judging began at noon. 3 impartial farmers measured yields from equivalent sections, weighed harvests, tested quality. Isaac watched the judges work with growing confidence. His methods had produced exactly what he'd planned: dense, healthy crops with superior nutritional value. Brennan noticed Isaac's calm demeanor. His predatory grin faltered. The judges announced their decision at sunset. Isaac Fisher had won by a margin of 30%. The crowd stood in stunned silence, then slowly began to applaud. Even those who had bet against him recognized superior farming when they saw it. Brennan's face darkened with rage, but he couldn't argue with objective measurements. Isaac had proven his worth through skill, through knowledge, through the quiet competence everyone had overlooked. He found Zuri in the dispersing crowd. Her eyes shone with pride and something deeper. "Well," he asked. She smiled. "I believe our courtship can continue." Victory changed everything. Isaac's farming competition win shifted how Cedar Ridge viewed him. Conversations stopped when he entered buildings. Nods of respect replaced dismissive glances. The town's weakest farmer had become its most skilled. But Thomas Brennan couldn't accept defeat gracefully. Isaac discovered the first signs of sabotage 3 days after the competition. Someone had cut his irrigation channels during the night. Water meant for his winter wheat now pooled uselessly in muddy puddles. He repaired the damage silently. No accusations, no complaints to the sheriff, just methodical restoration of his property. The second attack came a week later. Half his stored grain mysteriously spoiled. Sacks that should have lasted through winter showed signs of deliberate contamination. Salt mixed with the wheat. Moisture introduced to encourage rot. Isaac documented everything. Marianne Tate helped him photograph the evidence with her unusual camera equipment. Her technical knowledge surprised him. "Where did you learn photography?" "Picked up skills in my travels." She asked probing questions about his land holdings, about his father's business connections, about documents he might have inherited. Isaac answered carefully. Trust came slowly after years of isolation. Meanwhile, his relationship with Zuri deepened. They spent evenings reading together, discussing farming innovations and educational theories, planning potential futures that seemed increasingly possible. Chief Nathaniel visited regularly. His protective nature gradually shifted toward acceptance. Isaac's character had proven itself through consistent actions rather than grand gestures. During one evening visit, Nathaniel revealed unexpected information. "Zuri's more than a teacher to our community." "What do you mean?" Nathaniel's weathered hands gripped his coffee cup tightly. "She's my daughter. My blood daughter." Isaac set down his own cup carefully. "She never mentioned that. Because I asked her not to. 20 years ago, I gave her up so she could get proper schooling. Colored children with educated parents had better chances. I pretended to be just another community member watching out for her." The revelation explained Nathaniel's fierce protectiveness. It also revealed the sacrifice both father and daughter had made for Zuri's education. "Does she know?" "She's suspected for years, too smart not to piece things together." "Why tell me now?" "Because if you marry her, you become family, real family. And family protects each other." Isaac understood the warning embedded in those words. Protecting Zuri meant protecting Nathaniel's most precious gift. The harassment escalated beyond property damage. Brennan began following Zuri after school hours. He never approached directly, never spoke threateningly, but his presence created constant tension. Zuri handled the intimidation with characteristic strength. She varied her routes home, arranged for students' parents to accompany her, never showed fear publicly, but Isaac saw the strain in her tired eyes, the way she checked over her shoulder, the forced calm when Brennan's horse appeared on distant ridges. Elias Granger intensified his own pressure campaign. He arrived at Isaac's farm with new visitors each week, cattle ranchers interested in leasing grazing rights, railroad representatives discussing right-of-way agreements, land speculators offering impressive purchase prices. All the offers shared common elements: immediate payment, favorable terms, urgent deadlines. Isaac declined everything politely. His land wasn't for sale or lease. Granger's frustration grew obvious. "You don't understand the forces at work here, Fisher. Bigger interests than you can imagine." "What kind of interests?" "The kind that don't accept no for an answer indefinitely." The threats became less subtle. Strangers appeared around Isaac's property boundaries, well-dressed men who took notes and made measurements. They carried official-looking documents but offered no explanations. Marianne Tate's visits increased. She brought more photographic equipment, more probing questions. Her interest in documentation seemed almost professional. "You should be careful about who you trust," she warned one evening. "Including you?" "Especially me." Her cryptic responses troubled Isaac, but her practical help remained invaluable. She documented every incident of harassment, every suspicious visitor, every sign of the growing conspiracy. The situation reached a crisis point during the first week of November. Isaac returned from town to find his farmhouse ransacked, furniture overturned, papers scattered, personal belongings destroyed. But nothing appeared stolen. Someone had searched systematically through his possessions, looking for something specific. The hidden documents about his land holdings remained safe in their concealed location, but the message was clear. He wasn't safe on his own property. Zuri arrived that evening to find Isaac cleaning up debris. Her calm facade cracked when she saw the destruction. "They're trying to drive you away. They're trying to find something." "What?" Isaac made a decision. Trust required risk. Partnership demanded honesty. He retrieved the leather portfolio from its hiding place, showed Zuri the documents revealing his true wealth, explained his father's protective deception, detailed the scope of his land holdings. Zuri studied the papers with growing amazement. "You own half the railroad corridor. More than half. The water rights alone are worth a fortune, which explains why everyone suddenly wants to be my friend." Zuri understood immediately. Isaac's value made him a target. His wealth attracted predators. His isolation made him vulnerable. "What do we do?" "We stop being isolated." Isaac's plan was simple. Transparency would provide protection. If the community knew about his legitimate ownership, no one could claim his land through deception or intimidation. But going public carried enormous risks. Wealth attracted more than business partners. It drew criminals, corrupt officials, people who preferred taking to earning. Zuri supported his decision despite the dangers. "Hiding hasn't kept you safe. Maybe honesty will." They prepared for the revelation together. Isaac would announce his holdings at the next town meeting, present documentation, assert his rights publicly. The strategy required perfect timing and careful preparation. One mistake could destroy everything they'd built together. Winter was coming. Decisions made now would determine whether they survived it together or faced it alone. The truth about Marianne Tate emerged on a cold December morning. Isaac discovered her photographing his property boundaries with surveying equipment that belonged in government offices. She didn't deny his suspicions when confronted. "I'm a federal investigator, Territorial Land Commission." Isaac's world shifted again. "How long have you been watching me?" 6 months, since before your father died." "Why?" Marianne set down her camera. Her weathered face showed genuine regret. "Your father wasn't just a farmer, Isaac. He was a railroad investor, a partner in the Kansas Pacific Development Project." The revelation struck like lightning. Isaac thought he'd learned all his father's secrets, but Heinrich Fischer had hidden deeper truths. The land you inherited controls water rights for 3 counties. Your father bought strategic parcels when the railroad was just a dream. Now those parcels are worth more than some eastern cities. Isaac's hands shook as the implications became clear. The harassment, the pressure to sell. It's all connected. Elias Granger represents a syndicate of corrupt officials. They've been stealing land from legitimate owners for years. Your father's documentation threatens to expose everything. What kind of everything? Marianne pulled out a thick folder. Maps covered in red marks, lists of names, financial records showing illegal transfers, fraudulent foreclosures, forged documents, intimidation campaigns. They've stolen over 50,000 acres from farmers who couldn't fight back. Isaac studied the evidence. His father's careful documentation had created a paper trail showing systematic corruption. The modest German farmer had been building a case against the territory's most powerful men. Why didn't he go to authorities? He was gathering evidence when he died. Heart attack cut his investigation short. You think it was really a heart attack? Marianne's silence answered his question. The conspiracy reached deeper than Isaac had imagined. Granger was just one piece of a network that included territorial judges, railroad executives, federal land commissioners, men who turned westward expansion into personal enrichment. They need your signature on sale documents to legitimize their theft. If you won't sell willingly, they'll find other ways. What other ways? Declaring you mentally incompetent, arresting you on false charges, making you disappear entirely. Isaac felt the walls closing around him. His wealth had become a death sentence. What do you want from me? Testimony. Your father's documents combined with your witness statement can bring down the entire operation. And if I refuse? They'll destroy you anyway. At least cooperation gives you federal protection. Isaac needed time to think, to process the magnitude of what Marianne was revealing, to decide whether trust or self-preservation offered better survival odds. But time was running out. Elias Granger arrived that afternoon with legal documents and armed escorts. His thin smile had been replaced by cold determination. Isaac Fischer, you're under arrest for land fraud and tax evasion. On whose authority? Territorial Magistrate Judge Harrison. Isaac recognized the name from Marianne's corruption lists. The charges were fabricated, but fake authority could still destroy him. I demand to see a lawyer. Nearest lawyer is 3 days' ride. You'll wait in jail until then. The trap was closing perfectly. Once Isaac was imprisoned, his property would be declared abandoned. Emergency sale procedures would transfer ownership to the syndicate. Legal theft disguised as law enforcement. Zuri appeared as they prepared to arrest Isaac. Her timing was either fortunate or planned. What's happening here? Official business, ma'am. Best you move along. I don't think so. Zuri's voice carried authority that made the armed men hesitate. She stepped between Isaac and his captors with fearless determination. This man is under my protection as a member of our community. Any arrest requires proper documentation and witness verification. Granger's composure cracked. You have no legal standing here. I have the same standing as any citizen witnessing potential misconduct. Chief Nathaniel arrived with 6 other men from the colored community. Then farmers began appearing. Then shopkeepers. Word had spread through Cedar Ridge like wildfire. Isaac realized Zuri had prepared for this moment, had organized community support, had turned his isolation into solidarity. Granger found himself facing 30 angry residents instead of 1 helpless farmer. His 2 deputies looked nervous. Arresting 1 man was simple. Fighting an entire community was dangerous. This is obstruction of justice. This is justice, Nathaniel replied firmly. Marianne materialized from her house carrying an official-looking document. Federal oversight supersedes territorial authority in land fraud cases. This arrest is suspended pending investigation. Granger's face went white. Federal involvement meant his syndicate's protection had limits. You're making a serious mistake, Tate. I'm preventing one. The standoff lasted until sunset. Granger eventually retreated with his deputies, but the threat remained. Federal protection was temporary. Corruption ran deeper than one investigator could handle alone. That night, Isaac made his final decision. He would testify against the syndicate, would risk everything to expose the truth, would trust that justice existed somewhere beyond Cedar Ridge's compromised systems. But first, he had personal business to complete. He found Zuri at the schoolhouse grading papers by lamplight. Her calm efficiency amazed him. She'd organized his rescue while maintaining her teaching responsibilities. "Thank you. Thank me by surviving this. I intend to, but I need to ask you something first." Zuri looked up from her papers. Isaac knelt beside her chair. "Marry me, before the testimony, before whatever comes next." "Isaac, we discussed waiting until we've waited long enough. I love you. You love me. The rest is just other people's opinions." Zuri studied his face in the flickering lamplight, saw determination where doubt used to live, saw strength where weakness used to hide. Yes, they would face the syndicate as partners, would testify as husband and wife, would build their future on truth instead of fear. The wedding was scheduled for Christmas Eve. The testimony would follow immediately after. Cedar Ridge would never be the same. Christmas Eve arrived with clear skies and bitter cold. The small church at Cedar Ridge's edge had never hosted a wedding like this one. Black and white families filled the pews together for the first time in the town's history. Isaac stood at the altar wearing his father's best suit. His hands were steady. His voice was strong. The stammering boy who once fled from confrontation had disappeared completely. Zuri walked down the aisle without hesitation. Her white dress had been sewn by women from both communities working together. Chief Nathaniel escorted her with obvious pride. His secret paternity was no longer secret. The whole town knew he was giving away his daughter. Reverend Kane performed the ceremony with dignity, despite his personal reservations. The church's board had made their position clear: perform the wedding or find a new position. Isaac's vows carried across the packed church. "I promise to protect not just your body, but your spirit, to honor your strength and support your dreams." Zuri's response brought tears to many eyes. "I promise to stand beside you through every storm, to build something beautiful from what others called impossible." The congregation erupted in applause when they kissed. Even skeptics couldn't deny the genuine love between them. But celebration was brief. Federal marshals waited outside the church. Mary Ann Tate had arrived with reinforcements from the territorial capital. The corruption investigation was moving forward immediately. Elias Granger tried to flee town but was arrested at the railroad station. His saddlebags contained falsified property documents and detailed records of the syndicate's operations, evidence that would convict dozens of co-conspirators. Thomas Brennan faced charges for sabotage and intimidation. His ranch was revealed to be built on stolen land. Multiple families stepped forward with stories of forced sales and forged transfers. Judge Harrison was removed from office and imprisoned. His replacement was an honest man, appointed directly by federal authorities. The cleanup would take years, but justice was finally possible. Isaac's testimony proved devastating to the defense. His father's meticulous documentation combined with Mary Ann's investigation created an unbreakable case. The syndicate's illegal empire crumbled within weeks. More importantly, Isaac's land rights were permanently secured. Federal backing meant no local corruption could threaten his holdings again. His wealth was protected by the highest authorities in the territory. But the real victory was deeper than legal protection. Isaac had found his voice during the testimony, spoke clearly and confidently about complex financial matters, answered hostile questions without backing down. The courtroom saw a man who commanded respect through intelligence and integrity. Cedar Ridge transformed along with Isaac. The corruption's exposure forced difficult conversations about justice and equality. Some families left town rather than face change. Others embraced the opportunity for genuine community. The school board appointed Zuri as head teacher permanently. Her educational innovations attracted attention from the Territorial Education Department. Cedar Ridge became a model for integrated learning in Kansas. Isaac and Zuri used their combined resources wisely. They established the first integrated school in the territory. Black and white children learned together in classrooms designed for cooperation rather than separation. The school's success drew families from across Kansas. Progressive parents brought their children to experience true equality in education. Cedar Ridge's population doubled within 2 years. Chief Nathaniel officially acknowledged his relationship with Zuri. The community welcomed their reunited family with celebration rather than judgment. His wisdom and her intelligence created a powerful partnership for positive change. Mary Ann Tate remained in Cedar Ridge as the federal government's permanent representative. Her investigation had exposed corruption in multiple territories. She chose to stay where honest law enforcement could make the greatest difference. Thomas Brennan served 2 years in prison and returned as a changed man. His ranch was returned to its rightful owners, but he found work as a laborer on Isaac's expanded farming operation. Hard physical work taught him humility that intimidation never could. Even Elias Granger's story found partial redemption. His banking knowledge proved valuable to federal investigators tracking stolen assets. Cooperation reduced his sentence and allowed him to make restitution to victims of the fraud. The transformation wasn't complete overnight. Prejudices ran deep in frontier communities, but consistent example and patient education gradually changed hearts and minds. Isaac's farming techniques revolutionized agriculture throughout the region. He taught advanced methods freely to anyone willing to learn. His success demonstrated that knowledge shared was knowledge multiplied. 1 year after their wedding, Zuri gave birth to a healthy daughter. Little Sarah Fisher entered a world very different from the one her parents had known, a world where mixed families could thrive openly, where education was valued above prejudice, where quiet strength was recognized and celebrated. The christening filled the same church where Isaac and Zuri had married. The congregation was larger now, more diverse, more hopeful about the future they were building together. Isaac held his daughter while Zuri addressed the gathered community. This child will grow up knowing that love transcends every boundary, that courage comes in many forms, that two people willing to see past society's limitations can change the world. Chief Nathaniel blessed his granddaughter with words from 3 traditions: African wisdom from his ancestors, Christian faith from their shared community, American hope for the future they were creating. The ceremony concluded with Isaac speaking publicly for the final time in our story. His voice carried across the church with absolute confidence. 1 year ago, a remarkable woman approached me with an impossible request. She saw potential where others saw weakness. She offered partnership where others offered pity. She changed not just my life, but our entire community. He looked directly at Zuri with eyes full of love and gratitude. Today we celebrate more than our daughter's christening. We celebrate the power of believing in each other, of refusing to accept limitations others try to impose, of building something beautiful from the courage to say yes when others expect you to say no. The congregation rose in spontaneous applause. Isaac Fisher had become the man Zuri Shaw always knew he could be. Together, they had transformed not just their own lives, but their entire world. Their story proved that the most powerful revolutions begin not with violence, but with 2 people brave enough to see past what is to what could be. Sarah Fisher gurgled contentedly in her father's arms, already surrounded by more love and possibility than either parent had ever dreamed possible.